Soter, how are you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. How about yourself?
I'm great. What time is it in your side of the world?
It is 2:06 p.m. That is Eastern Daylight Savings Time, U.S. time.
That's not too bad. 8 p.m. over this side of the world. So slowly getting into the sun-setting phase. So Champions banned. Urgot, Lee Sin, Vladimir. Haven't seen Lee Sin ban in quite a while. Common ban,
Yeah.
popular ban. I just haven't seen one.
Yeah, maybe not so particularly good in tournament, but certainly in solo queue he is dominant both top lane and in the jungle. Over in the US we have Dignitas, Voyboy. Actually, no longer Dignitas is Voyboy. There's a lot of changing up in the American scene. I don't know if you caught up with that over the past week with Voyboy going to CLG, Hotshot going to the jungle. A lot of not really drama, just a lot of team swaps. But anyways, Voyboy kind of championed Lee Sin in that top lane. Really great play on him. So I certainly don't know why he's being banned out in this case. But
I'm very interested to see how the teams are going to hold up, or how they're going to perform now that the changes have actually taken place. How long is it going to take for the guys to readjust, get used to their new positions and roles? And you see Graves being banned out. I really don't want to deal with that burst or the power of Graves.
Yes, not. Yeah, and certainly he has great early game presence. Yeah, the only team that really got away scot-free of the big names was TSM, so I think TSM is kind of sitting pretty. They're like, oh, well, everyone else is changing up. They have to work on their chemistry again, and TSM is kind of same as usual. Of course, they picked up Dyrus a couple of months back. We do see a first pick Shen. That is pretty interesting. I normally see Shen banned in tournaments over in the US. Is it the same here? I actually was not on...
Generally,
wasn't paying
yes.
attention during the bans. Okay.
Yeah, generally, yes.
Sense.
If Shen isn't banned, he does tend to get picked up, tend to get picked very quickly. But the one thing that I find interesting is that Alternate opted to lock in Jax as opposed to Shen. So
yeah,
that's very interesting.
Yeah, Jax doesn't seem like a very high choice selection. I mean, of course, he's a great top laner, but doesn't seem like a necessary first pick where Shen, of course, is.
EU at the moment is in love with Jax. There's been a lot of Jax players. A lot of the top laners are playing a lot of him. We've seen Ocelot playing it the other day. We've seen Darien playing Jax. We just watched Shushay playing Jax. Now we're going to see Alternate playing him as well. Just the last 2 or 3 weeks or so, he's just grown in popularity and really grown in the EU teams as a favored pick, especially for that top lane.
That is interesting. No, he's certainly very popular on the American side too, but I think people feel like he can be countered in lane. But he is great. I mean, he does come, towards endgame with a lot more damage than a lot of the other bruisers, and has a lot of mobility. He can just leave strike all over the place, and that is certainly annoying. Is it possible to see an AP Janna here? I really hope so.
It depends. It's not very popular, this side of the pond, but... every now and again, she does rise up and show her face. But the one thing I like seeing as well, Shen and Morgana on the same team, that Dark Binding into the Shen taunt, it's going to be an instant death for whoever gets caught out once they hit the mid game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly will be. And they have a really good Protect the Cog team as well. Kog'Maw, of course, great hyper carry as you go late into the game. And the only reason I brought that up is because I just happened to be looking at Freljand Lord's match history, and they have 3 ranked games as AP Janna in the last couple of days, all of which they stomped. So certainly, that Janna could be a support bottom lane in a more standard position, or we could see Freljand Lord take that middle. That would be... I really want to see that. We have a couple people in the US that play AP Janna as well, some that play AP Soraka still. I feel like, the supports in the middle are actually really, really great coming, decent laning phase, sometimes overpowered laning phase, and end game. They just have a ton of utility to add. But it looks like it is going to be a support Janna as we see TF get picked up.
I like seeing that. That's not bad. I was trying to imagine what a Janna versus Morgana mid lane would look like, because it would just be Tormented Soil to kill all the creeps, followed by a Howling Gale to kill all the creeps, and then a stare down. Yeah. So there's not a huge amount of excitement going on. But I like Twisted Fate. I like watching the Destiny ultimates. And what I really like about that is the Destiny's going to be able to counter pick, or at least to an extent, counter the power of Stand United. Having those two let's call them global ultimates, the ability to jump around the map, or, having Shen push with his lane. He can only stand united to a teammate. It allows Pharrell and Lord, if he's going to be playing TF in the middle, to use Destiny aggressively. He doesn't have to use that ultimate defensively to save a teammate in a fight. He can use it to push a lane, like we've seen XPK doing on Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the TF and the Shen picks, but they both actually counter each other.
Yeah.
So, I don't know who comes out ahead. I would have to say Soraka comes out ahead because she is the second global, effect for Purple Team there for Millenium. But, that being said, TF also... in my opinion, I always love going against Soraka's when I play TF because, very little escape. Obviously, only has that flash to get away, and TF is going to pick up those level 2 boots way before Soraka in almost every instance. So those ganks bottom lane tend to be quite a bit easier. So I would not be surprised if we see a lot of focused bottom lane Udyr ganks combined with TF coming in. Of course, Janna has great gank assist too with that Zephyr Slow and Howling Gale knockup.
Now, what do you think about this top lane? Jax versus Warwick. Warwick does have quite a lot of sustain. Is he going to be able to beat down Jax?
Yes and no. No, in the sense that I always feel Warwick runs out of mana before he, kills bruisers in the initial stages of the game, until he gets his ultimate, essentially. But once it gets to a point where he gets his ultimate, Shen can come top lane, it'll be a relatively easy gank on Jax. And if you get Warwick snowballing, even though he has received a couple of nerfs in the past couple of patches, his Q got nerfed a little bit. If you get him snowballing top lane, then he's just he's impossible to lane against and to farm against, because once he gets you below half life, he procs that blood scent and he'll just Q you until you're dead. So I could see that lane going either way. If it was just a, fair matchup, I would have Jax ahead, but seeing as how, ganks will and can come up top, I could definitely see Warwick taking the advantage of those ganks and, kind of just dominating that lane. That being said, it doesn't necessarily have to go that way, and I really like Shen as a top laner better than a jungler. So we'll see how that, of course, as a jungle, he can kind of use his ultimate whenever he wants. He doesn't have a lane to protect, doesn't have someone to zone out a farm, but he'll also get his ultimate a little bit later, and he will not have the items that he would otherwise have. I think, I forget what game it was, but I saw Darien go top. It was actually M5 versus TSM, and I remember it was Darien top on Shen versus Dyrus's Jax, and at some point, Darien just had, I believe, like 400 farm to Dyrus's less than 200, and he could essentially 2v or 1v2 any two people on TSM's team. So certainly with farm, Shen can become beastly. It just is going to take him a lot longer to get all that farm in the jungle.
Now on the bottom lane as well, Soraka Kog'Maw, Janna Corki. Where it's two, sort of strange lanes. Corki does tend to be played, quite aggressively. And it can work when you've got the Eye of the Storm shield and the knockup from Janna, but the heal and the armor buff from Soraka is going to be very, very powerful on Kog'Maw.
Right, and Kog'Maw tends to be a little bit sturdier than most. Obviously, he doesn't have an escape skill. It depends. If they're able to pick up some early kills before 6, then I think they have a chance of killing that Soraka Kog'Maw lane. But once it gets to a point, Millennium's just going to completely out-sustain them. That being said, the sustain is going to be countered by, potential TF ganks, and I would not be surprised, or, it would be kind of in my mind as alternate to plan, as soon as TF hits level 6, they want to gank, because of course Shen won't be level 6 to counter gank that. Morgana doesn't really have a great mobility to get down there immediately, and in general, Kog'Maw and Soraka don't have a ton of escapability. So I'll be interested to see if they do try to do that quick gank at 6. That's when I think it'll be most successful. But besides that, yeah, it's certainly going to be hard to out-sustain that lane, and then it gets to a point where Kog'Maw just completely out-damages basically any attack damage carry bottom lane, even Corki, who has a stellar mid-game.
Yeah, very, very, very true. So, we are into the last 5 seconds, guys. I'm going to throw up a very quick commercial break, and when we're back, alternate attacks take on Millenium, best of 1 for the Dreamhack qualifier. So, adverts are throwing up. Not everybody gets them, though. So, if you are listening in, jump onto Facebook, facebook.com/in2lol. That's the number 2. It's a project that I'm busy working on and trying to get some numbers up. We're going to launch a website next week and give out some information there. But it'd be great if you could support and help out. If you are listening to the stream and you know Methis, she's also involved in the project. She'll be working with me. While you're at it, at lolsoter, go follow. Soter, thanks for helping me stream.
Oh, thank you for the invite. It has been a lot of fun, and of course, I try to keep up with the European teams, but it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of news over on the other side of the pond, but it's actually fun to get into these games, to cast them. I always see them in the big tournaments and watch them when I can. I have been following a little bit on these qualifiers, watching you cast the past couple days. You were always very entertaining, so thank you so much for letting me be part of this.
Well, thank you. All right, I just need to quickly fix my overlays. I have managed to break them. Ooh, wrong button. Sorry, guys. Put directed camera on so that can at least watch the game. All right, so on the left-hand side, we have alternates. What's happening in game, Soter?
Not too much. It looks like a kind of a passive start. Alternate was, just actually setting up defensively for their blue buff. I thought they might be heading towards the opposition's red. But both teams just defensively watching over their blue buffs, it seems so far. I actually did not get a chance to see who actually had skin advantage either. It looks like, Alternate has at least 4 or 5. Well, that'll be something we have to look at a different game. I can't tell you who's going to win because I don't know who has skin advantage.
What do you think of the Morgana skin? We're not sporting the new, Fallen Leaves, Twisted Ivy, Poisoned Grass, whatever it's called, skin. A bit sad about that.
Yeah, I like that new skin. This one, I don't know, what is this skin? It's not Sinful Succulence, is it?
Yeah, it is. You can see the little mitts. Yep, the little oven mitts on her. So she's going to be baking some cookies, taunting in some kids to nom them in dinner.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like, I actually pay so little attention to skins. I only own like 4 or 5, and of course I've been playing for a long time. And a lot of people, pay a lot of attention to them, but I don't even notice when I'm in games with other people's skins. And I get excited for a little bit when any new skin comes out, but I play like 5 games with a new skin, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't even look at that the entire time. We are seeing some invasion here. Wow, by Millenium, they have something in mind.
Well, 3-man push forward. They do have the Dark Binding. They've also got the Shadow Dash Taunt. So Pharrellin Lord may be in trouble if he gets caught out here. The Dark Binding does land. It's going to be followed up by the Taunt very, very shortly. Ignite goes down. Flashes away. Is that last tick going to be able to do it? And it does. Millenium pick up first blood, and it goes to Morgana.
Yeah, well, 2 unusual things we see there. That gank doesn't happen too much on the US servers, but it threatens a lot of AP champions, so they'll run around the back by the wolves instead of heading up that way. But if they do that, they might miss out on 1 or 2 creeps. We're going to see some early aggression from Tiger Stance Udyr up top, though.
He's going to be moving in. He's not going to be able to land the base stun, but Fiaz is forced to pop that flash. So you can call it a successful gank. Burning the flash at 2.5 minutes. It just means that Fiaz is going to be on the back foot. He's not going to be able to get away if Jax jumps onto him and lands a good counterattack in the next few minutes.
Yeah, that is going to be troubling for him. They actually have... Millenium has a ward at their own race, so they see that Udyr is down here. A Dark Binding is landed, followed up by a taunt. Again, we're seeing that combination a lot. Now Udyr is just going to run for the hills, but I don't know. I think he still has Flash, does he not?
Flash is not available. It's on cooldown. He stuns him, does get taunted up in the background. 1 more auto attack will be able to pick up the kill there. So,
too much CC.
Yeah, so much crowd control on behalf of Millenium. A little bit of an aggressive invade, very early on. Yes, Udyr, he was involved in that, or he was around. New Shen was maybe picking up his red buff, but I don't know, it felt a bit early for that invade. 2.5, 3 minutes time?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly early, but, I mean, you wouldn't really expect Millenium to have a ward at their own race at that point either. So I think that was kind of where the surprise came in there. And Dark Binding misses middle. Pharrellin Lord just going to farm up there. But yeah, obviously a really good start for Millenium. That is definitely what they wanted. The only thing going really particularly well for Alternate is Jax has had a little bit of time to free farm up top. But that being said, he's probably scared of a Shen gank, so he is actually heading back, and that's going to allow Warwick to catch up a little bit on this farm.
And the other thing that's also very interesting to note, Morgana, not only did she pick up the first blood, but was involved in an assist as well when Shen got the kill. So she's already sitting on 1,600 gold total, 1,100 in the bank at the 4-minute mark. So that's going to be a very, very early needlessly large rod. And it's going to make life quite hard for Pharrellin Lord in this middle lane.
Yeah, certainly. And of course now she picks up blue buff as well. That early blue buff, 4-minute blue buff. Not going to be fun for Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate actually deals better than most against people with blue buff because he can push pretty well, and he doesn't need blue buff quite as much as most because of blue card. But all that being said, you never want to go against an opposition that has blue buff when you don't have it.
So 0-2 in kills, 1,000 gold difference at 5 minutes. We've got Udyr coming up to the top lane now. The stun's going to get put down onto Fiaz. Flash is still not available. If Brett is there, comes the Tiger stance. He's going to be able to land the bear. Where is the bear stance? Not even needed. I don't even think it was used. Oh, it was. There we go. The last second there. But Jax manages to pick it up with a leap strike and one more empower. So 1 kill in reply.
Indeed, and of course top lane is one of those lanes that's really hard to come back from. So I said, of course, Warwick can snowball, but Jax can snowball as well. So it's going to come to a point where Jax can probably just zone out Warwick on his own.
And I think Jax snowballs a little bit harder than Warwick does. Warwick becomes an unkillable object, but Jax becomes a killing force if he gets fed.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I think Jax has more offensive late game, presence. I just feel like Warwick can kind of control lane a little bit better once he has Blood Scent, because there's essentially no way to farm and get away from him because of that movement speed bonus. That being said, it looks like Shen spent a decent amount of time up top, but is just going to back on out now, apparently.
And Cliff in the top lane really playing well. They're completely freezing up his lane. He leashed all 8 or 9 of those creeps off to the left, tanked a little bit of the damage, but he's just frozen his lane and his turret, so he's comfortable. He's on the sort of defensive position. Fiaz is the one that needs to be overextended, and Fiaz is the one that needs to be at risk of being ganked.
Right, and this flash is still not up, so of course that's how you want to gank. Gank once to get a flash down, and then gank again before it comes back up. Bottom lane, we see 34 CS to 47 CS of Corki, and what Janna and Corki have been doing, they've been purposely just pushing the lane all the way up to the turret, so that's kind of a good strategy on their part. Has netted them a, what was a 14 CS lead is now only 10 CS, but they're going to be able to go back, buy some items, and perhaps try to burst this opposition combo down.
Something else that has to be pointed out at the moment, Breda, playing Udyr, who's in the jungle, is going for a Tiger stance jungle. 1 point into Tiger, 2 into Turtle, 1 into Bear. He's going to meet face-to-face with Nijik at the moment, so there comes the Tiger stance. Turtle stance is out. There goes the Bear stun. He's going to put some damage onto him, but now he's turned his attention back to Fiaz. Flash comes out from Warwick immediately. I mean, again, the flash has been burned, so Fiaz super afraid in that lane.
Yeah, he's just bummed out that there's no...
God lands a great Dark Binding, moves forward with the Tormented Soil, and a full channel on Soul Shackles means that Forellen Lord goes down. So God taking out Forellen Lord in that mid lane 1v1.
Yeah, decided to go some Doran's rings instead of rushing a big ticket item, but turns out Well does pick up the kill there. In top lane, we're seeing a little bit more action. Shen going to come in here. Oh, a nice taunt, but it's probably not going to be able to do the trick. Warwick's still not level 6, now hits level 6, so, had Shen popped up just a second later, 1 minion later, would have been level 6, and that would have been a potentially much more successful gank.
I like the fact, look at Morgana at the minute, 56 CS, she's 201, you pointed out double Dorans, and she's already on 1,250 gold. I mean, it's so powerful, and that's terrifying, because the ability power ratio on that Dark Binding is very high. Currently sitting 64 AP with 58, so what's an 80% ratio, I believe?
I believe that's correct. Actually, it might be higher than that. It used to be a straight 1, I'm pretty sure, but a lot of our AP ratios have been nerfed, so I've kind of fallen out of knowledge.
Adding plus 58 already, and as soon as she starts adding more and more ability power, those Dark Bindings hit like a truck, take away so much hit points. Now Destiny has been used. Where is Twisted Fate moving though? He flashes to the bottom lane, stuns up Dax, Ignite goes down, a couple more auto attacks and they finish him off. So a good counter gank from Forellen Lord. And in the top lane now, Fiaz opens with the Infinite Duress. Cliff then gets taunted. Now he's going to turn around, applies the counter attack. He has been slowed though. Slow is now off. A flash from Nijik and a flash from Cliff, and Cliff gets away with Leap Strike.
Yep, so that was fortunate, but Alternate is actually, they had a terrible start. They were down 1,000, almost 1,500 gold within like 3 minutes, but now they're going to take the gold lead with this first dragon pickup. Yes, they are. They are now 900 gold ahead. Morgana pushing down middle, but actually doesn't have much mana to be a threat. Frelinor is just going to kind of scare her away there. Not going to be able to take that turret. So certainly, didn't feel like she could contest Dragon. Decided to go down bottom or push that turret in instead. Just wasn't able to do it, and now it's at half-life. Not really worth it in my opinion. Now Morgana can keep pressure on that and try to punish TF for roaming around, but... Oh wow, I just saw Morgana try to take that blue buff, but Shen picked it up. I'm not sure if it was bladed armor or what got it for him, but Morgana is not going to have that blue buff.
That's huge. Yep. Not being able to spam those abilities and farm, it's going to put Morgana a little bit behind, especially if Frelinor can pick up this next blue buff. If he can take his team next blue, which will be up in about 3 minutes time, it's going to give him a strong advantage and maybe be able to pull back this 2-0-1 deficit that Morgana's managed to pull ahead.
Right, and he does, of course, have that one kill. Only 14 CS down, doing pretty good. Looks like he's going to rush the Lich Bane. I don't know how many people... I'm actually going to change subjects. We don't see too many people rush Lich Bane on the US servers, or, I haven't seen it too many times in tournaments either. Certainly does help him give them that little bit of movement speed bonus, which is incredibly nice for TF. But... the other thing is that Tiger Udyr, we don't see too much of that. I know Dan Din has been playing it kind of recently. Great ganker, but I feel like it really slows me down in the jungle. I'm not a big fan of it, and Udyr is one of my most played champions. But do you see that a lot over here? No,
not very popular at all. Phoenix Stance is the preferred Udyr jungle. I quite like it in this particular game, and the reason I say that is because he's against a Shen. Shen is not a particularly fast jungler either, and if you look at his creep score, he's currently sitting on 25, as opposed to the 39 in Udyr. So Udyr's already got a lead. Shen does, of course, have the GP5s ticking over, which Udyr does not. But it is standard to go Phoenix. And the Lich Bane on Twisted Fate, I don't want to go so far as to say it's the norm, but it's not unusual to see a rushed Lich Bane. Usually, though, it's rushed after a double or a triple Doran's Rings. Once doubles or triple Doran's Rings are picked up, then at least you've got a little bit of additional ability power to get the proc from Lich Bane actually dealing a little bit of decent damage,
Yeah, certainly. And I understand that, and I don't mind brushing it because I really like that extra movement speed, but it's kind of interesting because he's not upgrading to level 2 boots quite yet. We actually see kind of a new builds on TF from high level solo queue play, building those boots 3 instead of builds 2 just for that little extra movement speed bonus, land that one more gold card normally makes a difference in ganks. So we're going to see Udyr head up top here, go in for another gank. Right now Warwick is actually doing surprisingly well in lane.
Even though Jax does have he has had the early advantage. He is currently only seeing an phage though, and the sustain from Warwick is so good. So here comes the ultimate. Stand United comes out. That's immediately going to taunt at least one of these champions. Now stun onto Nigel. He does now taunt Cliff, so Cliff has turned his attentions to Shen. He's going to go down in the background, so another kill goes the way of Millenium. While that's happening, we've got pressure in the middle lane, and we've got pressure on this bottom lane. Fish and Geza just continually pushing Kog'Maw and Soraka to their tower. But they're holding off, surviving, and farming well, I lie, 20 creeps difference already.
Right. Well, it was actually, 14 creeps
and there
earlier
comes
on
the
in the
Destiny
game.
At the moment. Destiny moves forward. Corki's going to be able to put some attention down onto Ensvach. He's moving forward. The silence comes out from Soraka. Huge silence stopping the Valkyrie.
Oh, man. Wow.
Props to Dax. Props to Dax. That was really well played and so smart, knowing that was what was going to happen.
Yeah, but I didn't understand why Corki was running back. I thought Corki was running back to get in range of a shield or a monsoon or something along those lines, but nothing came forth from Janna, probably all on cooldown. Really unfortunate there, and of course couldn't Valkyrie away. Wow, so that turns out into a 1-for-1, and Millenium takes mid-turret, pulling back ahead in the gold lead, has a 2-kill advantage here. Now certainly, like I said, TF picking on that bottom lane, no escapes down there, but that one didn't turn out quite as well as they might have hoped, but we'll probably see that continue. Kog'Maw, I feel like Kog'Maw's been doing a really good job. He is 19 CS down, but that is, 2 TF ganks later. Early on, actually, Corki and Janna were able to, push him about 14 CS down just on their own. So since then, he's been able to farm pretty well, and I think, the longer this game goes, or longer this laning phase goes, the easier it will be for Kog'Maw to farm up that lane.
Trying to keep an eye on the abilities at the moment. Nothing too far out of the ordinary in terms of how the players are skilling their champions. outside of Udia, 3 points into Tiger, 4 into Turtle, 1 into Bear, has not taken a single farming Phoenix stance point. And we're going to see how this transitions once we hit this mid-game phase.
That is a little unusual. One thing, well, I'm going to kind of go out on the limb here. One thing I've kind of looked into, or I've tried a couple times, is going Phoenix into Tiger, like just relatively early. So you still have the first 2 points in Phoenix, so you can farm pretty well.
We do have pressure on this top lane now. Bretta's moving forward. As soon as Stand United comes out, they've immediately turned away. Bretta does get taunted. Cliff is not interested in this fight, trying to run away, but now that's going to potentially put him in trouble. Manages to flash out of range of the Dark Binding, and Morgana forced to return back to her lane. So Archigod, good map awareness, good understanding that that fight was going to be happening, and she may be needed, but unfortunate not to land that Dark Binding.
Oh, we might see another gank bottom here with TF. Oh my goodness, he knows Morgana's kind of ghosting him, following him around. So throwing out. Oh my goodness, I thought those wild cards were going to hit too. They did not, and it looks like Millenium going to go for another dragon. They're 400 gold ahead, which is not a lot, and they're actually taking quite a good amount of poke damage here.
Look at the damage that's been put onto Archigod. There's a very nice flash taunt coming out from Nijek, but he just cannot take the damage from Corki and from Pharrell Lord. Gets melted after taunting. There's no follow-up from the rest of his team, so now Fiaz has moved forward. Another Dark Binding gets dodged. Wishes out from Soraka, so that's the heal down. A very nice knock-up from Janna. They're going to have to focus Archigod down before she can get the full channel off. Infinite Duress plus another Hungering Strike gives Warwick a double kill. Cogmore is now putting pressure onto Pharrell Lord. He's got that Bioarcane Barrage. If one more attack is all that's needed, the stun comes out. Ignite has been put on him. Are the creeps going to be able to pick up this kill? 155, 105, 95. No, Ensvach is going to be able to walk away. Millenium pick up a, what was that, 1 for 4 exchange?
Yes, and man, I really thought that was going a lot better for Alternate there. They got everyone incredibly low, and the reason why, they didn't follow up on the Shen taunt was because Morgana and Kog'Maw were already about below half health from those wild cards. So I thought that was going to go incredibly well for Alternate, despite the fact that, Jax was farming up top, did take out that top turret, but in the end, just not really worth it. All that poke was for nothing because they didn't focus any one of those people down. I feel like they could have focused Morgana down when she jumped in there. Of course, she did jump back in there, put back her dark shield up, or black shield rather, but that doesn't mean she couldn't have been taken out with straight damage from TF and Corki together. But all that being said, yeah, Millenium, once again, 2,000 gold ahead. Second dragon that they've taken. We'll see the next dragon around 22 minutes, 30 seconds. So that'll probably be the next big fight there. In the meanwhile, we still do have TF with his ultimate, and a lot of ultimates and summoner spells have been burned by Millenium and Alternate alike. So we'll probably see TF try to take advantage with his ultimate in the relatively near future here.
Considering the strength of the ganks and the power that we've been seeing from, Alternate in the top lane, they really wanted to take control of that lane, shut Warwick down. They haven't really succeeded. Warwick is not behind on farm. He's only got the 1 death to his name, and Udia spent quite a lot of time ganking there. Shen, on the other hand, he has pulled off quite a few ganks, 1-1-2 at the moment. Been a little bit more successful with those Stand Uniteds. But it's only 1,000 gold, 1,500 gold, and that's really not a lot of gold when you consider it's split between 5 members of your team.
Yeah, and I've actually been very impressed by Shen's early game, and they have that early Aegis, so that's going to help him out in team fights as well. I like that pickup. I love Aegis, great item for just about anyone, for jugglers, for supports, for top laners. Good general item. It's like gold efficient for yourself, and then of course when you apply all those stats to your team, it's great as well. I've been very impressed by Shen, using Stand United aggressively to get up top lane. It just so happens that, oftentimes they're being counter ganked.
And look at the top lane. Destiny comes in from Pharrell Lord. He puts a lot of damage down to Cliff. Fios manages to get Infinite Duress, immediately turns it around onto Jax, who was super low. In conjunction with the Stand United, Shen gets in there, manages to taunt them off, tanks even the last tower shot with another Hungering Strike, and wow, we have to see that again. That has to be rewatched. So take a look at the pressure coming out. We're going to put this down into slow-mo. There it comes. There's the pressure now. We're in slow-mo mode. Keep a close eye from this Destiny. Now the call comes out. You can hear Pharrell Lord saying, go, go, go. Fight, fight, fight. So he starts attacking. Ignite goes down. Fios sees it coming. He's waiting. After the stun, he then activates the Infinite Duress. Shen Stand United saves him and manages to taunt both Pharrell Lord and Jax Cliff. Wow, what a play.
Down bottom, there's a little bit more fun aggression as well. I'm sure you'll catch up to that in a second. That fight going very interestingly. But yeah, I mean, the top lane was so amazing. Shen's ultimate only shields people for 250 health at this level. So I was like, oh my goodness, well that is a dead Warwick. But then he got off that infinite duress and suddenly no damage was incoming. Shen gets up there in time, lands that taunt. So amazing, so amazing. So great play. I guess in this case Shen does counter TF. That would be the way to say that.
Yeah.
And of course, bottom lane, Corki picks up that kill against Kog'Maw in just a standard 2v2. I kind of thought that Kog'Maw would have the advantage at this point in the game, but it is not the case. Corki now has
the monsoon from Geza was very, very powerful there because he managed to split Kog'Maw, Enton's Vag and Dax apart, split them up. And if you look at Dax's build, he's run straight Phantom Dancer, so he's relying on the Bioarcane Barrage entirely. Now Archegod is being pressured. Cliffs jump forward. The Black Shield manages to block the counterattack as well as the gold card, and he doesn't get stunned or manage to go down there either.
Oh man, an aggressive flash there from Freljord. Oh, does dodge Dark Blinding, does not dodge that taunt, and now they are getting, they're getting blown up by that Soul Shackles underneath the tower, and it is a very slowly evolving 5v5. Another Dark Binding lands on Janna, nearly takes her down, and now, hey, Warwick is here, has Blood Sign on, it's going to pick up some kills, undoubtedly.
He's going to be keeping the push forward. There goes the Infinite Duration onto Fish. The Dark Binding comes out in the background. Tormented Soil, not enough. Was it a banana or a Star Call that picked up the kill from Soraka?
I did not see which one it was. I was just like focused on Warwick. I was like, what is Warwick gonna do? Who's he gonna get? And it turns out he gets everyone.
Yep.
So, job.
Huge pressure. Great play from Millenium. Managing to catch alternate attacks out. Alternate wanted that mid tower. They were pushing it as hard as they could, but unfortunately getting caught out by the Shen taunt and then a Dark Binding from Archegod. So Millenium, 4,000 gold ahead now. Correction, 6,000 gold ahead. Compliments of the Baron buff. Now they're buffed up with, of course, Baron Nashor, and in the driving seat.
Yeah, certainly. And I was actually impressed by Alternate's kind of aggression there. I was like, oh, they're going to get this mid turret. I like their play. I like their aggression. I like the fact that even though they know they're down, they are down. They're down 5 kills before that fight. They really want to, force the opposition. But it's a little bit too aggressive from Freljord, it seemed. Flash is in there to try to attack, doesn't even land the gold card on Morgana, and then kind of baits his team into getting caught into that Soul Shackles in reverse. The turret was still up, and then it was a 4-on-5. Warwick was very kind of late to the show, but, he's great at cleaning up battles, and that is what he did.
Well, another thing that has to be mentioned as well is the Soul Shackles from Archegod. He managed to pick up 4, and he managed to get the secondary stun, or he managed to get the proc on that Soul Shackles, and I think 3 out of the 4 people he initiated on, and that is huge for a Morgana to be able to pull that off, successfully. It deals huge amounts of damage, so you're talking 480 damage on the first proc, 480 damage on the second proc, and it stun locks them for 1.5 seconds.
Right, and really, that only happened because, of course, TF kind of just overcommitted himself, used this flash, so then he couldn't get out of the second proc of it, and now we see Millenium trying to push down bottom, being very aggressive. I actually did see, I want to kind of give props to John, is it Gazer or Geezer, or how do you pronounce that?
I think Geezer. Let's go with Geezer.
Geezer. We'll go with Geezer. Really nice Howling Gale while Shen was trying to taunt in. It probably would have been a dead Corki had that Howling Gale not been perfectly timed to cancel out his taunt there. So good show. And now Kog'Maw's at a point. He is a Baron buff. He's pretty excited. His ultimate's going to hurt. His W's going to hurt more because he's scaling off both that AP and AD. And he has that pickaxe and Phantom Dancer. He's just going to get stronger and stronger as this game goes on. It is going to be really, really troubling for Alternate, who they don't have as good of a team fighting team to begin with, I feel. They kind of relying on those ganks to give them a little bit of an advantage. I just feel like Morgana outshines TF in this capacity, but especially when, you have 10 kills and Baron buff in addition to a better team fighting team, it's cause for worry.
Now, unless Twisted Fate starts to do some form of backdooring or putting pressure, now they do manage to get a stun. Cliff jumps forward, lands his counterattack stun, but nobody else commits. Freljord's going to have to try to do some backdooring once he finishes maybe his Death Gap or a little bit more ability power. Look at the item build. a blasting wand, and then a ruby crystal. So I wonder, are we going to see a spirit visage maybe? Not the spirit visage, what's the little face, that little mask?
Oh, the haunting guys.
Yeah, the haunting guys?
I don't think so. It might be eventually turned into... Oh, it's probably into a Rod of Ages. It's probably what he's kind of looking at. But I mean, it would be way too late to build a Rod of Ages. It could also be building into a Banshee's Veil. I have no idea. There's no real item that would be acceptable to build at this point, according to the public's impression, I feel. So we are going to see what that could build into. It could just be giving him that little bit of health buffer so he survives, an initial burst from Morgana, for instance. Oh my goodness.
Great Dark Binding, followed up with the Tormented Soil. A Soul Shackles goes up. It manages to kill Corki, lock Janna up outside of tower range. Now they're falling back. Janna and Corki immediately blown up. Turn their attention to Cliff. Stand United has been used by Nijek, so he's going to be pushing forward. Dax eats a gold card to the face, but the range of Entensvag, more than enough. Popping out those living artilleries. You hear the fireworks landing. Pew! Bang. Forces Freljord Lord backwards. That costs them an inhibitor. One Dark Binding. That was it. That was the change, and it cost them an inhibitor.
Well, that's what happens when you land a Dark Binding on the AD carry. You just go all in because that is almost a guaranteed kill. I actually kind of got disoriented in the fight for a moment, but I'm pretty sure that Warwick actually saved his ultimate for after the Monsoon as well, coming from Janna. It's a good play on his part. And he's been very patient with his ultimates throughout the gank's early game and now into team fights. So yeah, an inhibitor pickup, a 9,000 gold lead, 13 kills are going to get this dragon. That'll put him another 1,000 gold ahead. And really, they're just kind of sitting in the driver's seat here. They have that Aegis on their team. We'll be seeing what Soraka is going to build next. I wouldn't be surprised if someone on that team picks up a Stark's Fervor to help out that Kog'Maw even more. I love building Aegis and Stark's Fervor if I have a Kog'Maw on my team, no matter what position I'm in. Even if I'm an AP carry, I'll build Stark's Fervor. Nah, that's going a little bit overboard, but if I'm in the jungle, I will rush a Stark's Fervor if I have that Kog'Maw on my team, just to give him that extra bonus. This is giving Kog'Maw essentially another 700 gold, 800 gold free, as does the Aegis.
And keep in mind that also benefits both Shen and Warwick, who are also auto-attack champions once you get into the team fights. That key strike from Shen deals very, very good damage. The fact that he's got the Giant's Belt, a Ruby Crystal, the Heart of Gold, he's increased his hit points, which means his key strike is hitting harder. And I think it cools down on targets that have been hit with the Vorpal Blade.
I believe the change is it cools down faster if he has Feint up, his shield up.
There we go. So
I think that's how the breaker's made.
Increase your attack speed, get Feint up more, using reducing the cooldown reduction to get key strike up higher, and it actually hits pretty hard. You sort of miss or underestimate the amount of damage that can be put down with that passive.
Right, and that's kind of why he was remade, so he does do some appreciable amounts of damage later on in the game, and I think Riot did a good job there. Riot's remakes are generally kind of villainized to begin with, but then people, wait a little while and they're like, oh, that turned out really well. Kind of like with Jax, everyone thought he was getting a really big nerf, but even though he had essentially a nerf to his overall effectiveness and stat-wise, gold efficient-wise, the fact that he was getting those defensive stats earlier on really helped him out. So kind of an interesting thing. I don't compliment Riot too much, but I love the game they made, and I feel like they should be complimented a little bit more, because they have a pretty decent idea of what to do and how to balance champions.
Yeah, there's something else that we need to remember as well. That Blood Scent, the Hunter's Call ability from Warwick gives a huge attack speed buff, 60%, and all nearby champions by half of that. So an additional 30% attack speed on top of Kog'Maw's existing 1.7. In conjunction with the range and the damage that comes out from Bioarcane Barrage, he is shooting fireworks like the 4th of July.
Indeed. Yeah, and actually, I was going to comment on that when we were talking about the Starks. So you're kind of like, we're on the same track. Yeah, man, we're on the same track. It's crazy. But I was looking at it, and he actually has leveled up Hunter's Call last, which is usual for a top lane Warwick. But that being said, I wouldn't have been surprised if he leveled that over Blood Scent just because of the great utility it gives to Kog'Maw.
Something else that we have to point out, take a look at the vision at the moment for Millenium. If you hit F2, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wards sitting in the enemy jungle, 4 of them around Baron. So while they can't see Baron directly, they know it's just respawned, and they can also see when alternate are going to be moving towards it. In response, the wards are practically mirrored from alternate attacks. They can also see their blue side of the jungle. They can also see Baron buff. So at the moment, that's going to be the next big engagement, and as we start pointing that out, the teams are moving towards the Baron area.
Yeah, and of course I was calling it Starks. It is now Zeke's Herald. Oh my goodness, the Dark Binding on
Moves forward,
TF.
Tormented
across the
Soil.
wall.
The flash comes out from Archegod. He manages to land the Soul Shackles only on Beretta and Ferellan Lord, but it's enough to force them backwards, and that should be able to give them a free Baron buff right now.
Right, they have the added advantage of having Warwick, who's going to give them notice if Udyr comes anywhere nearby. So he's going to be tracked by that Blood Sun if he comes in for a Baron Steal. Does not come in for a Baron Steal. Another thing is that Zeke's Herald was picked up by Soraka. That was a relatively quick Baron. You're going to do Baron quick if you have, if you have Warwick and Kog'Maw on your team.
And
but, just another Dark Binding.
Add the magic resist debuff from the Tormented Soil, in conjunction with the magic damage that Kog'Maw is putting out, as well as the magic damage Shen's putting out, and Warwick, it just increases the speed at which you can kill that giant Dune Worm.
I'm pretty sure that debuffs don't work on Baron anymore. I thought that was the change that they tried. Yeah, I paid kind of attention to that because I used to main Karthus as well, and a reason, obviously he does great consistent DPS, but he also had his Wall of Pain that really helped do Baron. But I'm pretty sure that was a change that they put in, a little while back, where debuffs don't necessarily work on Baron.
Well, I'd have to check that out. Chat, what do you guys think? Is it removed? Can you still remove the buffs? What do you think of the redesigned Baron, by the way? Look at the pressure now. They've jumped onto Cliff. They've used a lot of ultimates on him. Ended up using that Infinite Erase. Cliff does manage to get away. Archegod is going to pop that Soul Shackles. Doesn't manage to stun anybody up. Now is behind enemy lines, forced to use the Hourglass. Lands a great Dark Binding, followed up with a Tormented Soil. Now Nijak has returned to the fight. In the background, Kog'Maw has managed to take out Udyr. And now they're going to take down the next inhibitor turret. And it looks like Millenium should be able to walk away with this victory at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there will be any stopping him. Man, just so many good Dark Bindings by Archegod, and great play overall. Janna, interesting little flash in there, Monsoon. I guess the Surrender Hippo had gone in. I always get confused at the end when someone does something unusual, but everyone just likes using all their spells at the end, just for the cool graphics and whatnot. So that is game. A really good game, really good showing by Morgana. It looked like, right out of the bat, they picked up those 2 early kills. They had a huge advantage, but they actually lost the advantage. I think Alternate picked up the first dragon, got some kills, or ganks bottom lane, but then that was the end of their success. They tried to push down that mid tower, lost that fight 5-0, and then they didn't pick up a kill the rest of the game.
Well played to Millenium. Well played to Millenium. From the very early stages of the game, a little bit of back and forth, but once they hit the team fight stages, they looked in complete control and didn't really give anything up. So, our next game, I'm looking at the admin chat, and it looks as though we're going to be joining Against All Authority versus 4 Kings, if they are victorious. So, we're going to wait for that to happen. In the meantime, music is up, and Soter and myself, Quickshot, will be back shortly.
Woohoo.